Hello, Steve White, TrekBoy89 for SteveArts89. Well, I just wanted to share some stories of meeting some of the Star Trek stars because I'm fortunate enough to live in Melbourne, and we've had a lot of Star Trek conventions over the years, and for quite a big run there, for a while there we had a good run there where there was a promoter who was really focused on getting Star Trek stars in, so we saw a lot of people in a very short time. But the first Star Trek star I met was Nichelle Nichols, and I'd never been to a convention, and I really wasn't comfortable, but I'm like, I have to meet Nichelle, so I made an exception for her, and I enjoyed it. The next event that we had was for Patrick Stuart. So he was here to promote a movie, he was filming a movie, he was here to promote a movie, and I had heard about it somewhere. I bought a ticket. I wasn't like the first person to buy a ticket, so I wasn't like sitting right down the front or anything. I was about in the middle, and it was your basic sort of Q&A after a movie, and you know, he just came out and everyone applauded, and a bunch of people went down the front, photographers and that, and I sort of thought, well, I'm going to go down the front, take some photos. So I went down the front, I took a couple of photos, although my camera didn't have a zoom or anything, so the photos were still really far away, and the lighting wasn't good. And I sort of stayed down there for a bit, and I sort of thought, maybe I can just stay here, because no one seemed to notice I was still there, and I was like, nah, you better not. And I sort of took one last photo of him down the front, and the flash kind of startled him, because I think he didn't realise there was anyone left there, because everyone else had sort of gone. He sort of looked at me, and I sort of looked at him, and I sort of was like, sorry. Went back to my seat, and he went through and he talked, and people asked questions, and people were getting up and standing and waiting, and I put my hand up, and the guy sort of said, you know, because Patrick actually said, okay, last two questions, and I was like the second person, and he sort of looked at me like yep, and it was sort of like, fine, yep, and I was like, yeah, I'm the last person squeezing, and then the guy asked him a question ahead of me, and then he answered the question, and then the promoter, whoever he was, just said, okay, that's it, you know, we don't have time for any more questions now, and Patrick looked at me, and I looked at him like, he was shrugged like, I don't know, and then they sort of, you know, his, you know, handlers came in and, you know, swept him away, and that was it. I didn't get my question, and I was so annoyed for years, because, I mean, I didn't really meet him. I sort of was there and looking at him, he was looking at me, and we sort of interacted a bit, but we didn't actually speak, and actually say anything to him, and it annoyed me for years. I think it was a decade, and then he came to do just a regular Star Trek convention. That was just a Q&A, sort of a movie sort of thing. It wasn't like a Star Trek convention. There were a lot of Star Trek fans there. And they showed First Contact. He was there to promote a different film. And then after the Q&A, because they sort of showed both films. And then they showed First Contact afterwards. So I don't know if I stayed around for the film. But years later, he came to another convention. Now, unfortunately, the guy who runs the conventions had sold all the photographs with Patrick Stuart at the convention beforehand, which I didn't go to because it was an actor that I'd already met. And I sort of was like, oh, it would be fun, but I really can't afford, because the conventions are not cheap, just to pay just to see the same person again. I've already spoken to them, asked them questions, you know, got photos and autographs and everything, so I was sort of like, I don't need to do that. So I didn't go. And then I found out later that he sold all the photographs, the tokens for the photographs for Patrick Stewart at that, so there were none left. So I couldn't get a photo with Patrick. And I was really disappointed, because normally what they would do is just, when they put the convention on for sale, they would sell the tickets for the photos and autographs at that time. But he sold them beforehand, and I didn't even know about it before they were all gone. So I was upset about that for a long time. But he came, and I bought an autograph, I got in line, and finally got up to him, and fortunately I sort of knew some of the people, and I sort of, you know, it was very casual, and it wasn't sort of rushed or anything, and I just sort of said to him, you know, Patrick, and I think he was Sir Patrick then, because he wasn't the first time, and I just told him what happened the first time, and I think he didn't recognise me, but I think he vaguely remembered that, and I just said, look, this is what I wanted to say to you, because I had a story about something that he did that affected me, and it was very important to me. It made sort of a big difference, and I wanted to thank him for that back then, and 10 years later I still wanted to thank him for it, and the fact that that mattered to me, because it wasn't a Star Trek thing, and that I wanted to share, you know, thank him for that, and I waited 10 years to do it, it still meant that much to me. He seemed to appreciate that, and I got a very nice smile and a very nice interaction. We chatted for a bit, and he was really nice. I got an autograph, which was good because he has some arthritis, so he wasn't doing a lot of autographs at that point. I'm not sure what he's like with conventions now, but yeah, they weren't selling a lot, but I got one of them. But I was always dirty over missing that photograph with him because a friend took a photo of me talking to him in the line, and that was was at the front of the autograph line talking to him but I didn't get a proper portrait with him. And most of the Star Trek actors that I liked, I got actual portraits with. So that's my my Patrick Stuart Star Trek Captain Picard experience. Just I met him technically I saw him twice, met him once. Had a nice moment, had a nice conversation, and it was really nice. And I just wanted to share that.